call to order.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided and published in the Asbury Park Press and the Ocean Star on January 27, 2023. Copies of the agenda were provided to the newspaper, posted on public bulletin boards and the Township website.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Albanese.
Here.
Councilwoman Pontorero.
Here.
Councilman Ambrosino.
Here.
Councilman Minikino.
Here.
Councilwoman Travers.
Here.
Vice President Zapsik.
Here.
President DeYoung.
Here.
Thank you.
Can I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the March 28th meeting, please?
Motion. Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Albanese.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pontorero.
Yes.
Councilman Ambrosino.
Yes.
Councilman Minikino.
Yes.
Councilwoman Travers.
Yes.
Vice President Zapsik.
Yes.
President DeYoung.
Yes. We have the last of our budget presentations, so... Oh, I'm sorry about that. Salute to the flag. I skipped that one. I'm sorry. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Now, last of our budget presentations. Are all three of you coming up at the same time or one at a time? Come on up. We have Alyssa Cummins from Engineering, Tara Paxton from Land Use, Chris Romano from Zoning, and Dan Newman from Building.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Okay. Yes. Thank you for your time this evening and allowing me to provide a brief introduction to the Engineering Division and address the items requested in our 2023 budget. The primary functions of the Division Engineering are to establish and maintain public infrastructure and assist with its integration into private property. We monitor the site construction and off-site improvements outside of a physical building envelope. Engineering currently employs 6 full-time employees. Our full-time staff includes 1 licensed professional engineer, 2 engineering inspectors that are certified by the National Institute for Certification in Engineering Technologies, an engineering aide and road inspector, a permit clerk, and our secretary. As a group, we provide professional assistance to the township departments such as the Department of Public Works, in-house construction, traffic safety, and parks, as well as technical support for homeowners, businesses, realtors, and developers. We also serve as the contact for various divisions of the DEP, the DOT, the Army Corps of Engineers. This year, we anticipate that the Army Corps will award a beach maintenance replenishment for our ocean front. Our office is also the designated floodplain administrator responsible for compliance with the rules and requirements of the National Flood Insurance Program. Based upon how well we comply with the NFIP regulations and guidelines, our citizens are provided a discount on their flood insurance premiums. Most of the day-to-day operation of the division involves interaction with the public, including homeowners, business owners, contractors, licensed professionals looking for guidance with their development. Our greatest effort and goals going into 2023 include to implement our internal GIS-based stormwater inspection program, maintain the township status with the community rating system for discounted flood insurance premiums, assist residents, realtors, and developers with private property development, coordinate with Public Works for repair and improvements to our existing infrastructure, and maximize the capital funds available to the greatest extent practical, develop a township-wide dredge material management and habitat restoration plan, educate the public on flood risk and preparedness. We have spent a lot of time and effort over the last few years developing procedures for better organization and standardization in our division. Our permit input is now processed by our clerk, decreasing our overtime review, our permit overturning review time. Inspection reporting has been streamlined so that results are emailed to homeowners and contractors, saving time as well as postage. Closed permits are routinely sent to archives to scan for easy retrieval from all departments. Coordination with zoning and code enforcement has been organized so that policies are standardized. Citizens get consistent information, and engineering violations are enforced in a consistent manner. We are also using a GIS-based app to complete our stormwater inspections to reduce time and waste associated with paper forms. All of these things may seem small, but combined they enable us to better assist people with their requirements, wants, and needs while saving time and saving money. Engineering salary and wage budget for 2023 request is $220,000, including $10,000 in overtime. While our salaries are fixed, the actual cost to the township is estimated. The funds recouped in the budget from inspections, escrow accounts, and capital accounts will vary from year to year. Therefore, the actual staffing costs to the township fluctuate annually. Overtime is something that is difficult to estimate, as the time required is completely dependent upon the volume of work throughout the division, and this work is development driven. We provide inspections as requested by contractors or administration outside of the normal operating hours of the township, provided the overtime hours can be charged to an escrow project that can be billed for the associated cost. Our operating budget request is $125,750, which is actually a 21% decrease from last year, and it is based on last year's actual expenses in expert services and equipment. These funds are requested to pay for general supplies, tools, and equipment, renewal fees to pay for professional licenses and certifications, as well as the courses that provide the continuing education credits we need to maintain those licenses. Annual permits, such as our DEP stormwater permitting for our annual municipal permit, our industrial permit for Traders Cove Marina, and a multitude of permits for our public works facility and Tidelands licenses for our waterfront parks and infrastructure. And the professional services of engineers, surveyors, architects, and environmentalists that need to be contracted with in order to complete tasks beyond the resources of the in-house department's capabilities. Engineering's largest line item is for expert services. This is money that the department reserves to pay engineers, architects, or professionals for services that cannot be capitalized, such as surveying, flood mapping appeals, ADA compliance consultation, master plan updates, sound studies, and general traffic consultation. If the services are not required, these monies are not spent. This year's request represents a decrease from prior years, as we have been able to accomplish more internally as a result of the cross-training and streamlining process I mentioned earlier. And with that, I thank the mayor, the council, and our business administrator, as well as the citizens, for their patient support and active participation in all of our projects and initiatives.
Very good. Thank you. Does anyone from council have any questions? Anyone from public have any questions? Yes.
Good evening, John Sluka, 950 Sylvia Court. How many employees?
6.
$220,000 in total?
Correct.
They're not full-time?
They're all full-time.
They're all full-time? Tough job. The inspectors, what do they do?
So they review permits for everything from houses to bulkheads, and they inspect everything that they review. They also inspect all of the commercial site development in town, like if a CVS is approved, they make sure that the drainage system is properly installed,
Everything
the
like that.
curbing, pavement.
Okay, that was really my main question was, but then I didn't miss them. So even for the houses, somebody's going to put an addition on a house? Is that what you're talking about?
Correct.
For residential? Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
Anybody else from public? Seeing none, moving on. Ms. Pext.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor Crate, Council President DeYoung, and the entire governing body, as well as our Business Administrator, Joanne Bergen, for giving Zoning Officer Christopher Romano and myself this opportunity to present our Division of Land Use budget. On behalf of our employees, we thank you for your support and continued assistance that you've given us throughout this past year and continuing on through the future. The Division of Land Use and Planning consists of the Zoning Office, Planning Board, Zoning Board, GIS Mapping, Grant Management, Community Development, and General Land Use Planning. We like to start out with our accomplishments from last year. The most notable accomplishment in 2022 included the approval of the Township's state plan endorsement for 2 areas of the municipality, which we've designated as cores, for our continued approval of our CRS Class 6 rating. The plan endorsement process was a 10-year review of all of our planning policies, master plan elements, ordinances, GIS mapping for consistency with the New Jersey State Plan. We're amongst some of the largest municipalities to complete this voluntary process to make us competitive with regard to grants and state funding, and it has paid off. I'm glad to say. In 2022, we continued to receive grant awards and successfully administer them, which is a direct impact positively on the budget. As Ms. Cummins discussed, the CRS, the Community Rating System Flood Insurance Program annual review was successfully completed in conjunction with Ms. Cummins' staff. We had 58 elevation certificates that were reviewed for submission for accuracy by the engineering and land use staff. And that accomplishment serves as a prerequisite to even get into the program, which saves our residents flood insurance premium. The result this year, the staff was very proud, and we were proud of them, resulted in 100% compliance. This is the first time in 6 years that we achieved that, and they worked very hard at it. So we were very, very proud of them, and it was a remarkable undertaking because not many municipalities make 100%. Our division has 7 full-time employees with 11 planning board members, 9 zoning board members. We serve as staff to the planning board, zoning board of adjustment, land use committee, master plan committee, environmental commission, architectural review committee, sustainable brick committee, the green team, the new brick open space savers, BOSS, floodplain management planning committee, and serve as, Mr. Romano serves as the ADA coordinator. We also assist the Shade Tree Commission, and Homes Now, who administers our Affordable Housing Trust Fund. In 2022, our division collected $525,182 in the affordable housing fees and passed on 85% of that as part of our contract to Homes Now to monitor the 880 deed-restricted units that are maintained in accordance with the Fair Share Act regulations. This is a monumental task, and having Homes Now do it is a big savings for the township. In revenue, the Division of Land Use and Planning has 5 main revenue sources to help offset the costs to taxpayers for our operations. We collect permits and application fees, zoning permit fees, affordable housing fees, planning and zoning board application fees, and escrow fees. Our expenses are primarily salaries and wages. The land use budget for salary and wages decreased by 5% from our last year, including overtime. Most overtime, however, is charged to the rider accounts for the planning board because they are mostly related to planning board and zoning board applications. So those rider fees are charged for when we attend board meetings, when we have additional work that we have to do that's outside of work hours. As Ms. Cummins was discussing with escrow fees for inspections, we also charge back salary to those various revenue sources. And we also charge back for grants that we regularly receive. One of them is the Community Development Block Grant. Every year we get funding from the Housing and Urban Development Agency to administer the Community Development Block Grant, and we are able to charge 20% of that grant back to the grant for our administration of it. So we charged $65,370 last year. The Affordable Housing Trust Fund, part of my salary and other staff salary, goes into charging that at $7,469. $23,671 was charged to Planning Board and Board of Adjustment rider accounts, and $22,847 was charged to the Planning Board and Zoning Board escrow accounts. That's for when we do our reviews. Taxpayers don't pay for when developers make applications. They do, and we charge them for it. These funds are not taxpayer funded, but grant funded and development fee funded, which resulted in a savings of $119,358 for a net salary expense of $414,141. And that will continue because we're still getting in applications for the boards. Our operating budget increased by $27,500 as a result of expert services line items increasing to $60,000 as needed for planning studies, surveys, environmental assessments, appraisals, and plans in preparation for master plan updates, open space purchases for appraisals and surveys and environmental assessments, and to apply to the Green Acres Division for funding. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Romano to talk about the zoning office and their activities.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. The zoning office is staffed by 2 employees, the zoning officer and a clerk. Zoning applications can range from a request to build a 90-square-foot shed, to a single-family dwelling, to a development of a major shopping center. The zoning officer looks for consistency with board approvals or the zoning code. Our office is involved applications from an initial informal meeting requests with applicants through the permitting process. In 2022, we processed 1,608 permit applications and brought in $103,600 in revenue from issuance and permits. If you can look at your packet, you can see a bar graph that pretty much gives you a kind of a snapshot of the applications that we get, the permits that we issue, and quantities. So you can see, obviously, fences, in-ground swimming pools, single-family dwellings, generators, solar panels is holding strong every year as far as quantity. So you can kind of get, like I said, a good snapshot of what we deal with on a day-to-day basis. The zoning board. The zoning board had a very busy 2022, and we're even gearing up for even busier 2023. But in 2022, we had 75 cases, 8 additional special hearings. We took in $44,750 in application fees, $198,541 in escrow fees. And that's it. So I'm going to take back.
Chris keeps the board going with the board secretary, Pam O'Neill. He actually, all of the applicants come in and we project their applications on the screen behind us. So he sits up at the dais and he's like the wizard behind the curtain. He underestimates what he does, but he's very helpful for all those board applicants because then they're not nervous bundling with papers and everything. So I serve as the planner for both the zoning board and the planning board. And in 2022, the planning board heard 37 cases. We had 8 additional special hearings, mostly over across the street. And we collected $52,525 in application fees and $143,307 in escrow fees. We also do GIS mapping. We have our GIS specialist and data specialist who works closely with the BTMUA and the Township's consulting surveyor and the engineering office to maintain the Township's computer mapping and manages to create, analyze, convert, and maintain terabytes of GIS data. It's amazing what he can do with the information that we give him. He creates hundreds of maps detailing everything from conservation efforts to snowplow routes. So, and then one of the last things that we do in our office is we manage grants. In 2022, the Township received, as I mentioned earlier, the Community Development Block Grant. We get that grant every year because we're in what's called an entitlement community. We usually get around $300,000. Last year we got $310,817. Our favorite thing to do is to turn around and give some of it away through the public service grants. We received $129,200 in grant requests last year from public service agencies, and we're only allowed to award 15% of our total allocation, so we try and do it by the dollar, and we awarded $54,432 in public service grants to 14 nonprofit agencies that provide residents to BRIC, which carry forward our mission for work that we're not able to do here. We also do housing rehabilitation projects. 4 were completed last year and administered by Township staff. 4 new single-family homeowner rehabilitation contracts have just been awarded for 2023. We also are still administering the COVID funds that were allocated in 2020. You may remember from my presentation last year that Homes Now has been handling the rental assistance program to income-qualified individuals. We've helped 15 families with grants of up to $5,000 each to help them with their rent or utilities. And we also gave a really big chunk of the money to Preferred Behavioral Health to administer a program that provides counseling to kids who've been impacted in the COVID pandemic. And I'm pleased to say that 298 students and their families, because it's student and family counseling, have been helped through this grant. And you know, it's something that I wish we could give more than 15% of our grant out, because it really goes a long way. Other grants offset capital costs by providing funding for park development, acquisition, EV charging stations, and other recreational amenities. Staff also assists other departments in the, such as the New Jersey Department of Transportation, Community Affairs, Environmental Protection, and we manage federal grants through the year. Last year we received $1.3 million in grant awards, and we're working through administering those right now. And that concludes our report. Thank you for your continued support, and we look forward to working with you in the years to come.
Very good, thank you. Mr. Newman. Oh, I'm sorry. Questions from the council? Anyone from public? Yes.
John Sluka, 950 Sylvia Court. Basically the same area. How do we notice salaries in total?
Like
or is that
they-
not part of the budget?
Like they said before, they have accounts that they can charge back their salary.
I know that part.
So the
But how does the
salary that's
public
coming
know what
out
the
of the
salary is?
budget,
What?
because they're allowed to, they just said how much they charged back last year. The salary for these departments are a movable object, so we budget what we believe was last year. Is that correct? What was last year is what?
Right. So I don't have it in front of me, but
Yeah, so I can answer that.
You could
So
do that?
the-
Because it makes no sense to me. I keep hearing 220. I said, you could work at McDonald's for more than they're getting paid if they're not doing chargebacks.
Right, so the totally salaries that were expended last year for Sarah's division was $333,000. So she asked for $470 for this year because $100,000 of it, so she actually
Is
spent
charged.
$433 was charged back.
Okay, that's
So-
the number I was missing.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
can show you the chart. So
Oh, okay.
you see,
And the same with everybody's, actually, I would
Right.
guess.
It's really
Yes.
just land use and engineering that has these types of chargebacks.
Yeah, oh, it's just,
When
it's
Mr.
not
Newman
everybody
gives
then.
his presentation, he
That's
does
what I'm
not.
saying. To
No,
me,
because there's
I'm
not-
hearing I hear a salary and I'm saying it must be, there's chargebacks, gotta be. And then I hear you say there's chargeback. I say, yeah, but that doesn't help the public understand how much money really the department's costing. Yes, they're getting money back, but the cost out of the pocket, in other words, for 2 employees, 4 employees, 8 employees, need to be something. It can't be the kind of money you guys are talking about. You know, or otherwise we work in McDonald's. Why would any engineer work here?
But that is the cost to municipality.
A cost to the municipality, correct.
Yes.
But not the total salary. You're not saying salary, and here's our chargebacks, and therefore it's a net. It's sort of like leaving us not understanding it a little bit.
But did I
because
answer your question?
Yes, you did.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
I
Thank
just
you.
wanted, you know.
Anybody
Okay, thanks
else?
again.
Mr. Newman.
Excuse me, yes. Thank you very much, Mayor Crate, council members, our business administrator. Our reporting tonight on the budget request for the Division of Inspections. Division of Inspections is empowered to enforce the New Jersey adopted Uniform Construction Code, as well as local ordinances for property maintenance and the occupancy or reoccupancy of rental units. The division, therefore, is split into 2 budgets. One dedicated to the enforcement of the Uniform Construction Code, and one dedicated to municipal code enforcement of property maintenance and rental inspections. The Uniform Construction Code budget, number 195, the purpose of the Uniform Construction Code is to protect the health, safety of occupants of structures. Also, the code is designed to encourage innovation in construction, including the use of modern technical methods and elimination of obsolete construction regulations that increase the cost of construction. The number of permits issued in 2022 was 3,484 permits, with an additional 887 permit updates. This is consistent with 2021. From January 1st, 2023 to March 31st, 2023, we've issued about the same number of permits that we had done last year. So the total number of permits does fluctuate based on economics as well as other outside conditions outside of our control. The number of inspections performed in 2022 was 17,923. The number of inspections also fluctuates based on economic conditions. Much of our revenue for permit fees is based on the value of construction of projects. The value of construction for 2022 was $123,275,053. The added value of the improvements made to these properties therefore affects our property taxes paid to the township. So, the higher that number, the better it is on our property tax revenue. Our revenue generated by permit fees for that work was $2,509,228. Additional revenue from items such as penalties, ongoing inspections of things like public swimming pools, variation applications, certificate fees, yearly testing of backflow detection devices, all different things that we also charge for, brings our grand total for revenue to $2,853,799. Staffing for the Division of Inspections that relates to only the Uniform Construction Code. Our inspection staff is made up of a construction official, a subcode official, and inspectors. Each local enforcement agency, which is what we are considered by the state, we're the local enforcement agency for the Uniform Construction Code, has one construction official, that's me. I serve as the chief administrator responsible for administrating and enforcing the provisions of the New Jersey Uniform Construction Code. Each technical area of the code has one subcode official. Technical areas are things like building subcode, plumbing subcode, electric, fire, and elevator subcodes. Each one of those are different subcodes. The subcode official, under my direction, has the administrative responsibility of enforcing their specific jurisdiction. They interpret the requirements of their subcode, perform plan reviews prior to the permit being issued, and is immediate supervisor for technical issues with their inspectors within their subcode. The inspectors, under the direction of their subcode official and the construction official, perform inspections in the field. The staff dedicated to the building subcode includes a full-time building subcode official and 2 full-time building inspectors. The staff dedicated to the plumbing and mechanical subcode, they're kind of the same thing, though there is a difference. Includes a full-time subcode official and 1 full-time plumbing inspector. We had 1 full-time plumbing inspector retire in 2022, excuse me. We have not replaced that position. I also, that's my technical trade, so I also contribute to this subcode when necessary. The staff dedicated to the electrical subcode includes a full-time electrical subcode official and a full-time electrical inspector. In 2022, our longtime electrical subcode official retired. One of our inspectors was promoted to that position. We did not replace his inspector's position. We had an additional inspector retire, but he was replaced. The fire subcode, we continue to utilize the services provided through the shared service agreement with the Brick Township Bureau of Fire Safety to provide fire subcode and inspection services. We also have 1 part-time elevator inspector for elevators. Clerical staff duties include permit application, intake, data entry, inspection scheduling, shepherding the applications through the plan review process, processing any violation notices, and once approved by the subcode official, issuing the permit. The clerical staff is really the frontline staff that meets with the public and contractors on a daily basis, and they do a great job. In the beginning of 2022, we had 9 full-time clerical staff members. 2 of the clerical staff left in the middle of the year 2022. We had added a part-time position to replace them. In 2023, we have lost another full-time clerical member to a transfer, basically leaving us with 6 full-time clerical and 1 part-time position. With the changes to our staffing levels, the salary line item request for 2023 was reduced by 11%. The total operating budget request for 2023 decreased by 2.9%. We do have some challenges for 2023. This year we'll have a number of challenges in enforcing the Uniform Construction Code regulations. One is cost. We always work diligently to control costs, including overtime. With a reduced staff, we will need to be extra diligent to ensure we properly enforce the code. Another challenge is our new codes. On September 6, 2022, new code additions were adopted in New Jersey for all but the plumbing code. The plumbing code was a little delayed. It wasn't adopted until September 19th, 2022. This actually occurs every 3 years. We adopt new additions to the code, and there's usually significant changes to some areas of the code. This started a grace period for 6 months where applicants could utilize either the immediately past edition of the code or the new code. On March 6, 2023, for most of the subcodes, and March 19, 2023 for the plumbing subcode, all new applications must be submitted under the new code additions. There is significant changes to the energy code as well as some other codes. So that's has been caused some, I don't want to say complaints, but concerns of contractors, these new code additions. There's also some additional new laws that are going to affect how we enforce the Uniform Construction Code. The state of New Jersey has passed a new process that we're using for third-party inspectors. In the past, if the township wished to utilize a third-party inspection agency, or it's just an inspector from a different jurisdiction through a shared service arrangement, the entire subcode would need to be turned over to that third party. So if we wanted to use a building inspector from another town, like we did with Tom's River for a while after 2008 economic crisis, the whole subcode, everything, the subcode and all the inspectors had to go to that town. If you hire a third-party agency, the same thing. The subcode and all the inspectors would have to go to the third-party agency. It made using third-party inspectors almost impossible. The new law will allow third-party agencies to be utilized in a limited basis for added help on a specific job or a specific inspector, adding an inspector to help you with an overload of work. New Jersey Department of Community Affairs has until October to actually write the regulations to implement that new law. So sometime before the end of the year, the state is saying they may need some additional time for that, but for the most part, by the end of this year, that new process will be in place. The state of New Jersey also directed the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs to create regulations for acceptance of electronic applications. Presently, applications must be submitted on New Jersey Department of Community Affairs standard forms with a wet ink signature, actually ink signing it, and an embossed seal for certain trades. NJDCA has until the end of the year to implement new regulations on the process and procedures necessary to allow full electronic submittals, including electronic plans. We're already a little ahead of most towns. We have some equipment to handle that, and we've also talked to our workflow software vendor to start implementing some changes to the software to make that all work. That also is supposed to happen by the end of the year. There's also some new interpretations from NJDCA. They've been reviewing all aspects of construction codes. They have reinterpreted many items, basically regarding what will need a permit, what doesn't. They did that in 2016. They're doing it again now. It may have an effect on the way we process permits. The second budget I deal with is the property maintenance and rental inspection budget. That's budget 196. The purpose of the municipal codes is to protect the quality of life of our residents and ensure property owners provide safe housing when their units are rented. Our code enforcement staff includes 3 full-time inspectors, and a supervisor. Supervisory help is provided by an acting code enforcement supervisor. In addition, 1 staff member has dual duties of performing clerical functions, but also doing rental inspections. 1 code enforcement officer does work in Manahawkin through a shared service arrangement when they need it. They have a fairly small town, so it's not that big of a deal. We get reimbursed. The township is fully reimbursed for those costs. One code enforcement officer does investigations during weekend hours, and they share evening shifts for light pollution and short-term rental complaints. The idea is for code enforcement to be accessible and available for weekend complaints, which is, as you can imagine, quite frequently. Saturday code enforcement hours do not generate overtime. He actually takes a different day of the week off and then works on a Saturday. Our workload, rental reoccupancy inspections. Rental inspections were conducted on 563 properties. 110 inspections were also conducted as re-inspections due to deficiencies discovered on the initial inspection when they were conducted. The total number of inspections, therefore, was 673. This generated a revenue of $92,850. The inspectors also investigate properties based on complaints or spot checks of known problem properties. These inspections generated 1,599 notices of violation of the municipal code. 1,482 were closed from last year. 117 remain open. 58 have been issued summonses to appear in municipal court. We also have a property maintenance review board. Property maintenance review board is an active body that meets monthly with few exceptions. Sometimes it winds up being 6 or 8 weeks before we meet, but we try to do it monthly. Their work remains essential to the township works to ensure that public maintenance, the property maintenance code is followed both for safety reasons and for overall aesthetics of neighborhoods. Our staff works diligently to prepare cases to be presented to the board. We make factual findings and implement the board's orders. Individuals that respond to code enforcement violations or respond to orders of the municipal court judge generally are not summoned to appear before the property maintenance review board. It's only for those that don't show up for court, don't do what they're supposed to do, then it winds up before the property maintenance review board. Expenditures. In 2023, request for operating and expenses is relatively consistent with 2022. The request for the 2022 budget was $151,650. The request for 2023 is $152,680. Overtime costs for 2022 totaled $530.29. We do have some challenges in this area also. There's new laws. The state of New Jersey has passed a new law that will affect code enforcement. The state now mandates that dwellings built prior to 1978 that are rented to be need to be inspected for possible lead hazards. At the present time, brick would only need to conduct a visual inspection. However, the law has triggers that would require additional testing and remediation, or remediation. Visual inspection process is relatively simple. When we step it up to what they call wipe tests or other things, that becomes more complicated. Properties that are required to be registered with the state, like large apartment complexes, are exempt from this law because they're already checked for lead by the state. So the big, larger apartment complexes are not required to do that. The state has also passed a law that requires the township to collect proof of liability insurance from every business and most rental properties. We don't, again, the large ones are exempt because they have to provide that to the state. If a rental property is 4 or fewer units, and one of those units is owner occupied, the owner must show proof of $300,000 worth of coverage. Otherwise, they have to show $500,000 worth of coverage. We have passed a requirement that all these properties provide a copy of the insurance, and once submitted, a mercantile license will be issued. Council, thank you. You passed that law. We need to implement that this year. The state law requires that the township, 1, educate the business owners and renters about the policy and the responsibilities to provide this documentation. Also, to collect a copy of the insurance, obviously, and issue violations for businesses or property owners that do not comply with the regulations. We fail to enforce this, we can actually be fined by the state. In conclusion, again, thank you for this opportunity to present our budget requests. We look forward to another year of support and assistance, both from you, but also for us to our residents. Thank you very much.
Very good, thank you. Anybody have questions up here? Seeing none, anybody from the public? Yes.
Since I never assume, I will presume you meant me, even though you failed to mention my name and you know it quite well. First thing, I'm Nan Call, 18 Greenbrier Boulevard, and I want to commend the 4 people sitting here. 2 of them I know rather well. 3 of them I know rather well. I didn't recognize you, Alyssa. The gentleman I don't really, this gentleman I don't know. And Danny, you're looking very well. Thank you for a great presentation. However, my mind is a complete mess of a Jell-O mixture. I can't remember much of what I wanted to get more information on, but I'll start with, I remember back when Verizon wanted a blanket approval to put in FiOS, which I still cannot get, and I'm a Verizon retiree. But it's because there's underground cable. Now, at that time, I believe it was mentioned that they wanted blanket because they were not going to go to 526 municipalities or townships to get individual approval on it. And several of the things, particularly that Mr. Newman mentioned, I would like some information on. He mentioned about if you had a shared agreement, I believe, and forgive me, I've gotten very old in the years I'm living here and the trials I've lived through. You mentioned shared approval and having to give the entity that you're sharing it with access or a complete copy of your code enforcement book, I believe it was. Is that still so in the electronic age? And in addition to, I'll ask that question and the other one will come to me in a minute.
Okay. Shared service agreement, that's not what a shared service agreement is. Shared service agreement was, for instance, after 2008, when the economy, went down significantly.
Yes.
We entered in a shared service agreement so that the inspectors from Toms River and the Brick Township, we worked together and basically covered both towns. That agreement is fine, except that there was no way, especially after Sandy, that Toms River could keep up and provide that service. So the service ended. But you're kind of talking about a separate issue, and that is codes and having access to codes. In the past, if you wanted to review something out of the plumbing subcode, which is a published document by National Standard Plumbing Code, is published by, well, it was published by Plumbing, Heating, Cooling Contractors, is now published by a different company out of California.
Great.
You have to go to the library to look at it. That's not true anymore. They're all online. You can view them. I'm not a big fan of the format National Standard uses because they do it like a book and you actually have to turn the pages, where the other code books, it's one long sheet and you just put in what you're looking for and you can find it. But they're all available online. But the application, what I was talking about electronic format, the application still has to be done on specific forms with specific signatures. You can fill them out online, but you have to then print it, sign it, seal it with a seal. All that is going away by the end of the year, where a full application will be able to do electronically. State of New Jersey, about 2 or 3 years ago, started a pilot program where any project that was required to be inspected by the state, which is things like casinos, big projects of that type. And also, if your town isn't a Class 1 town, we're a Class 1 town, I can inspect anything, Brick Hospital, anything, but there are towns that aren't, they can't do that. They have to turn those inspections over to the state. The state started a program about 3 years ago, pilot program, where everything had to be submitted electronically. They purposely went to electronic submittals as a test program. I understand it didn't work as well as they had hoped, but they think they've got all those bugs fixed, and by the end of this year, they'll actually be requiring it in every municipality in the state of New Jersey. So,
All right, I'm not sure that in the beginning I understood it properly. What I took it to mean is that at times when the workload is, say, very heavy, that you could have an agreement with Tom's River, but that you would have to supply Tom's River with the code.
no, the code is statewide. Everybody uses the same code
Well,
throughout the
that
state of
was
New Jersey.
part of what
That's,
was in
you
my
know,
thought
Not that
process.
we have to provide them with code. In the past, I
the
could not
past.
do that. I could not take a Tom's River inspector and use them in Brick. What we would have to do is have them apply for a job here and actually become what they call a per diem inspector. And he worked for us. He was my employee, not Tom's River. That never worked out well. The state of New Jersey, I mean, I hate to tell stories, but I went out after Sandy out to Trenton to speak with Trenton, with the mayor at the time and the business administrator at the time, asking for them to lessen that restriction because it was ridiculous. We had towns that were inland who were not that busy, who could have come and helped us, and the state said absolutely not. It wasn't allowed by the regulations. It will now be allowed by the regulations, that we will be able to do that without actually turning the entire subcode, the subcode official and all the inspectors over to another town. It'll allow that flexibility.
Madam President, through the chair, to the attorney for the township, I have a question about that business of cutting off the information I am seeking before I've received the information I desire. Would you ask the attorney to give a ruling on the appropriateness of doing that to me?
Is this about,
It's about mostly Mr. Newman's presentation, but in general.
okay, well, your 5 minutes is up, but
That, through the township chair to the township attorney, on something like this, I know what the code says about a 5-minute limit on anything we're entitled to speak about. But when it's a quest for information that should be available to the public, like a public record, is that also proper to time and limit it before I receive the information I seek?
Mr. Starkey.
Yes, it is all.
Okay, I'll
any
check
public
that
comment
out. Would you tell me who
Can I
oversees
finish?
this entire body of people?
Well, let me finish the first part. The purpose of the 5-minute rule, limiting people to 5 minutes.
Oh, I
is
know it
not-
well.
Okay, it's not to cut off access. It's to provide for an orderly meeting so anyone who wants to get up has a sufficient amount of time to speak. Mr. Newman's a public employee, and I know that people who have questions outside of this meeting can contact him directly for answers to their questions. I'm sure that would apply to you as well.
I'm here tonight, and I'm seeking information that should be part of a public record, and therefore, in my opinion, and I'll check it with a higher power, if you tell me who has the oversight over this entire body, and who has the oversight over the next level.
This body is an independent body. It's governed by Robert's rules. They're entitled to set their
Oh,
own
you're
rules.
not.
And the 5-minute rule has been in effect since as long as I've been here, and it's been enforced so that a meeting can be conducted in an orderly fashion.
But not before I was here.
Thank you, Ms. Call.
It was before you were here, but not before I was here, and that was put in purposely to limit the access we have to
Thank you, Ms. Call.
information, but I'll take it up with another one.
Anybody else from public? Seeing none, close public. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate your time. See ya. We'll now move on to consent agenda. Madam Clerk?
All matters listed under item consent agenda will be enacted by one motion in the form listed below. If discussion is desired on any item, this item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately.
Thank you. Resolution 5-1.
Authorize appointment of Municipal Utilities Authority Commissioner.
Councilman Ambrosino.
Thank you, Madam President. This resolution authorizes the appointment of William Neefsey to the Brick Township Municipal Utilities Authority for a 5-year term effective April 11th of 2023 and expiring on January 31st of 2028. Thank you.
Thank you. 5-2.
Authorize award of bid Summerfest food truck vendors.
Councilman Minikino.
Thank you. This resolution authorizes the award of bid to Summerfest food truck vendors. Category 1, hot food, sausage sandwiches and cheesesteaks it's from Big Blue Wrap and Roll. Category 2, grilled fried items, Delino's Food Services. Category 3 is ice cream by Piper's Treats. Category 4 specialty is funnel cakes, fried Oreos, butterfly fries from John and Debbie's O Concessions. Category 4 specialty, Italian mozzarella donuts, Italian nachos, fettuccine bread pockets by Calindo's. Category 4 specialty, surf and turf. It's Highway to Ohana. Bid notices were provided to 106 prospective bidders from our bidders list and 14 picked up bid packages. 10 bids were received, with the awards going to the highest bidders of each category. Thank you.
Thank you. 5-3.
Authorize award of bid firework exhibitions.
Council Vice President Zapsik.
Thank you, Council President. This resolution authorizes an award of bid for fireworks exhibitions to Schaefer Fireworks, Bronx, Pennsylvania, in the amount of $26,040, a cost of $5,208 for the Summerfest Concert Series and Fall Fest. Bid notices were provided to 12 prospective bidders from our bidders list, and 6 vendors picked up packages. 1 bid was received. Thank you.
Thank you. 5-4.
Authorize award of bid beer and wine garden concession.
Councilman Albanese.
Thank you, Council President. This resolution authorizes an award of bid for annual beer and wine concession at Windward Tavern, Brick, in the amount of $9,100. The beer and wine concession is for the 2023 Summerfest season. Bid notices were provided to 25 prospective bidders and 3 submitted bid packages. Windward Tavern provided the highest responsible bid.
Thank you. 5-5.
Authorize award of contract Cedar Bridge Manor Park improvements.
Council Vice President Zapsik.
Thank you, Council President. I'm pleased to present this resolution that authorizes the award of contract in the amount of $465,412 to Robbie Lane Enterprises, Towacco, New Jersey, for the Cedar Bridge Manor Park improvements. 6 bids were received, with bids ranging from the high bid of $572,385 to the lowest responsible bid of $465,412. The township has all the necessary permits to proceed with this project. The project includes shoreline restoration, specifically riprap stabilization edge with vegetation mulch, much like we did at Bay Harbor Beach. This project also includes playground equipment, exercise equipment, a kayak launch, walkway, and a bike rack. Thank you.
Thank you. 5-6.
Authorize purchase over bid threshold microsurfacing of various township roads.
Councilwoman Travers.
Thank you, Council President. This resolution authorizes the township to exceed the bid threshold by going with a state contract vendor for its 2023 microsurfacing project for various township roadways. The contract is being awarded to Asphalt Paving System in the amount of $129,576.70. Roads scheduled for microsurfacing under this contract include a portion of Lakewood Gardens, specifically Albert Cucci Drive, Frank Neary Drive, Bedford Avenue, Wren Avenue, John McGuckin Drive, and Joseph Byrne Drive. Microsurfacing is a pavement preservation and maintenance treatment for our roadways. It is made and applied by a specialized machine that mixes the materials on site and spreads them over the existing pavement. Typically, microsurfacing extends the pavement life up to 10 years or longer. It cures quickly and allows traffic within 1 hour in most cases. Thank you.
Thank you. 5-7.
Authorize purchase over bid threshold installation of bike and scooter park at Drum Point Sports Complex.
Councilwoman Pontoriero.
Thank you, President DeYoung. This resolution likewise authorizes the township to exceed the bid threshold by going with a state contract vendor for the installation of a bike and scooter park at our Drum Point Sports Complex. The contract is being awarded to American Ramp Company in the amount of $418,036.14. Thank you.
Thank you. Resolution 5-8.
Authorize award of contract through Stafford Township Cooperative Pricing System, automotive parts, supplies, and repairs.
Councilman Menachino.
Thank you. This resolution authorizes the award of contract for automotive parts, supplies, and repairs to the following vendors: Barlow Automotives, Manahawkin; Beach Haven Automotive, Ship Bottom; Bergey's Trucking, Hamilton; J. Bolts Industry Supplies, Glendolan, PA; Downs Ford, Toms River; Freehold Ford, Freehold; Gabrielle Kenworth, Dayton, New Jersey; Gentini Ford, Woodbine; Grand Turk Equipment, Bridgeport, PA; Auto Parts Connection, Mount Holly; and Midwest Auto Sports, Columbus, Ohio. This contract is being awarded through the Stafford Township Cooperative Pricing System. This is an open-ended contract not to exceed $100,000 per year. Thank you.
Resolution 5-9.
Authorize execution of storm drainage easement with JCP&L, Block 1060.12, Lot 1.
Councilman Ambrosino.
Thank you, Council President. This resolution authorizes the execution of a storm drainage easement for 133 Harding Drive, which benefits the Township of Brick as it is much needed to maintain infrastructure. The Township engineer has been working with First Energy, JCP&L, to secure this storm drainage easement in Point Pleasant manner. Thank you.
Resolution 5-10.
Authorize special event permit, American Cancer Society Relay for Life event.
Councilwoman Travers.
Thank you, Council President. This resolution authorizes a special event permit for the American Cancer Society's Relay for Life from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. on Friday, May 19th, 2023 at Windward Beach Park. Thank you.
Thank you. Resolution 5-11.
511 is an inspection fund release for Solid Gold Realty in the amount of $1,705.56.
Thank you. Resolution 5-12.
Authorize waiver of Section 110-5 of the Township Code to allow dogs at the farmer's market.
Council Vice President Zapsik.
Thank you, Council President. This resolution was reviewed and approved by the Township Council's Recreation Committee. It allows dog owners to bring their canine companions with them to the farmer's market held each Saturday from May through September at Windward Beach Park. Dogs are allowed in Township parks as long as they're leashed and their owners clean up after them as needed. However, the bandshell area at Windward Beach is considered a beach area where dogs are not allowed. Over the years, responsible dog owners have expressed dismay at not being allowed to bring their dogs to the market, and our staff requested the committee consider this exemption. We are doing this by resolution so we can see how it goes this season, and if all goes well, we'll continue the practice, and hopefully all will go well. Thank you.
Thank you. End of consent agenda. Can I have a motion and a second, please?
Motion.
Second.
Anybody for questions from the council? Seeing none, any public? Yes.
Sam Foster, 108 Chico Drive. Can you hear me? Is this microphone working? Okay. I have a comment about number 12. Just to clarify, does this mean any type of dogs, or is it restricted to service or
Any
emotional
dogs.
support? Any?
Any dogs. So you're allowed emotional support animals there regardless of what our ordinance says.
Okay, I'm just going to make a comment about that because I go to farmers markets a lot in the Toms River, and a lot of them don't allow pets because of the sanitary conditions around, since they're selling food a lot, fresh vegetables, produce, and everything like that. Has the council done any kind of studies, or have you consulted with anybody, like the health department, to ensure that animals being around food like that? Because we're talking about, raw food.
This right now is a trial basis, and we can make a resolution to pull pets from
Okay.
it. So it's a trial basis, and we'll see how it goes.
Okay, because I walk at the reservoir, not as often as I should do, but I know that they ban dogs there, and I've seen people walk their dogs there, and they don't pick up after them. So that's really a really unsanitary thing.
That's why it's a trial basis.
Okay, that's all. I just want to see about that. All right, thank you.
Anybody else? Yes.
Am I to presume again that you mean me, Madam President?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you for addressing me correctly. As long as Mr. Foster opened the door, I'm going to ask, and through you, to the attorney, what is the purpose of this meeting? Is it a caucus meeting? Is it a public meeting? And either way, what is the purpose?
Do you have a question on the resolutions?
Yes.
What is your question on the resolutions?
First, I want
No,
my
I would like you to ask
answered.
the question on the resolutions, please. Thank you.
When did you have public comment on this resolution prior to tonight? Because that's part of Robert's rules. Robert's rule says that it's to protect the opportunity of every person to get the information they seek, to discuss it, to offer input. It is not the prerogative of this body to go ahead and do that without a public comment. Usually, I've repeated this over and over, 1 week it was a caucus at which we spent sometimes a couple of hours in public comment and were not limited in what we could
Ms. Call,
seek.
what are your
Excuse me.
comments on the resolutions?
Did you have a public comment period for people like me to offer their ideas, their opinions, their experiences?
This is public
on
comment.
this matter?
You have your 5 minutes.
No, before you put this on,
You have
you
5
should
minutes
have had
to offer
the
your
public comment
public
and
comments.
given us the ability, we the people, the ability to get the information we need so that you can do your job.
Thank
But
you,
you
Ms.
should
Call.
get a book
Please
of
sit
learning.
down. Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, close public roll call.
Councilman Albany.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pontoriero.
Yes.
Councilman Ambrosino.
I vote yes.
Councilman Menachino.
Yes.
Councilwoman Travers.
Yes.
Vice President Zapsik.
Yes.
President DeYoung.
Yes. Moving on to Bill Resolution Computer 2023.
Be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Brick that the following bills be paid and that the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to draw orders on the treasurer for the amounts of the same. Computer bill resolution in the amount of $1,189,715.24.
May I have a motion and a second, please?
Motion.
Second.
Open to council. Close council. Open to public on the computer bill resolutions. Seeing none, close public roll call.
Councilman Albany.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pontoriero.
Yes.
Councilman Ambrosino.
Yes.
Councilman Menachino.
Yes.
Councilwoman Travers.
Yes.
Vice President Zapsik.
Yes.
President DeYoung.
Yes.
Thank you.
Moving on to Bill Resolution Manual 2023.
Be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Brick that the following bills be paid and that the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to draw orders on the treasurer for the amounts of the same. Manual bill resolution in the amount of $1,780,951.32.
May I have a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
Open to council. Close council. Open to public on the manual bill resolutions. Seeing none, close public. Roll call.
Councilman Albanese.
Yes.
Councilwoman Pontoriero.
Yes.
Councilman Ambrosino.
Yes.
Councilman Menachino.
Yes.
Councilwoman Travers.
Yes.
Vice President Zapsik.
Yes.
President DeYoung.
Yes. We are now on to ordinance on second reading, the cap rate ordinance.
Calendar year 2023 ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank, NJSA 40A:4-4514.
Council Vice President Zapsik.
Thank you, Council President. This ordinance allows the township to establish a cap bank for future use. The ordinance allows for increases for budget appropriations and allows the township to bank any unused monetary room. This cap bank ordinance allows the township to increase budget appropriations by 3.5% over the prior year's appropriations and to bank any unused appropriation room for the next 2 succeeding years. This ordinance is simply precautionary. It is not funded through a tax increase since it is only used in subsequent years should we need to fund a one-time expenditure. The monies available by this cap rate index ordinance may be used to offset the cost of any future disasters and the need for any future emergency appropriations. We are not generating cash. We are creating the ability to raise money should we need it in an emergency. If the funds are not needed in the succeeding 2 years, the bank is simply dissolved. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have a motion and a second?
Motion.
Second.
Very good. Open to council. Closed council. Open to public on this ordinance.
Vic Finelli, just one question on this. How is this different than a reserve fund? We have a lot of money in a reserve fund for, I'm assuming, emergencies and whatnot. So how is this different than that, or why is this needed additionally to that?
Mrs. Bergen.
Reserves are actual money. This is a bank. This is a cap bank that allows you to raise the money should you need it.
Okay. So if you needed money with that scenario, what would you do first? Would you do this, or would you go to the reserve fund?
It would depend on where we were with the budget at the time and what we needed it for. The last time we looked at using our cap bank was after Hurricane Sandy.
Okay. So it'd be something big. All right, thank you.
Anybody else from public? Seeing none, close public. Roll call, please.
Councilman Albanese.
Yes.
Councilwoman Fonterrero.
Yes.
Councilman Ambrosino.
Yes.
Councilman Menachino.
Yes.
Councilwoman Travers.
Yes.
Vice President Zabsik.
Yes.
President DeYoung.
Yes. We're now moving on to public comments.
Please note that each person addressing the council during any section of the meeting during which public comment is permitted shall limit his or her remarks to 5 minutes pursuant to Brick Township Administrative Code, Section 2-33B.
Yes.
I will read my letter. John Sluka, 950 Sylvia Court. Dear Mayor Crate, Council President Heather DeYoung, all the council members, and the workers and residents of Brick. Not sure if anyone has read the British Journal of Nursing, Volume 30, concerning public health, free access, why air pollution is an important issue for all nurses, which was first published in September of 21. They state in this paper, most people will be aware that unfortunately COVID-19 has led to more than 4 million deaths across the world. However, few are aware that more than 7 million premature deaths are caused by air pollution every single year, and this is according to the World Health Organization. Our parents and grandparents may remember the deadly pre-super smog of the 50s. Anyone who grew up in Southeast Asia will be familiar with the haze events, where smoke from agriculture or forest burning blots out the sun and stings the eyes and throat. Levels of air pollution can vary from day to day based on the weather and activities, but exposure to high levels of air pollution can be affected immediately, but even the seemingly low levels that are exposed can damage our lungs, brains, cardiovascular system. From adverse birth outcomes such as low birth weight to diabetes, cognitive decline, and dementia, health effects can occur throughout our lives, reducing quality of life and life expectancy. Some people are at higher risk from effects on air pollution, including those with pre-existing conditions, such as cardiovascular or respiratory disease, as well as children, pregnant women, and older people. People living on working in areas with high levels of air pollution, such as areas close to busy roads, are more likely to be affected by air pollution, according to the Public Health England in 2019. Air pollution is a complex mix that can occur naturally, such as from wind-blown soil and wildfires, or derived from human activities emitted from transport, industry, and domestic heating. Pollutants including nitrogen dioxide, ozone, ammonia, sulfur dioxide, carbon monoxide, and volatile organic compounds exist. It was written in the National Library of Medicine in an article with captioned Adult Air Pollution Exposure and Risk and Infertility in the Nurses' Health Study. Proximity to major roadways and ambient exposure to particulate matter were determined for residential addresses. The most abundant pollution in this mix follows nitrogen dioxide. which is emitted directly from exhaust of certain vehicles. In the outdoor air, the major sources of nitric oxide and fossil fuel combustion, primarily from road transport and diesel vehicles. It is now fully acknowledged that the ultimate effect of air pollution on public health is to bring about premature death, primarily due to cardiovascular and respiratory disease. The recently published report by the Royal College of Physicians and Royal College of Pediatrics and Child Health estimates that figures increase in recently described effects of nitric oxide are also taken into account. Strong scientific concerns about that both short and long-term exposure have cardiovascular effects and lead to respiratory disease, particularly strong evidence for heart disease, reducing lung function, and heightened severity of symptoms in asthmatic and those with COPD. In Nursing in Practice article of 2016, it shows evidence linking long-term exposure to arteriosclerosis and a host of childhood respiratory conditions, including increased susceptibility to infections, symptoms of asthma, and low lung functions. Other than detrimental effects include cardiopulmonary health. Particulates from diesel exhaust vehicles are now classified as carcinogens, and an increasing number of studies investigating the potential for air pollution to negatively influence birth outcomes, diabetes, neurodevelopment, cognitive function. With this in mind, and knowing New Jersey Turnpike commissioners have a need for greed, it may be impossible to get them to correct things on their own that they caused by the Garden State Parkway. The New Jersey Turnpike Authority Commissions are harming our children, killing our seniors, and making completely healthy life in Brick and Ocean County impossible. The residents of Evergreen Woods, Greenbrier, Birchwood, Cherrywood need your help. The students of Lane Mill and Brick High need your help. The workers of the library in Town Hall need your help. Thanks for your time. I yield back 2 seconds.
Anybody else? Yes.
Nan Carl, 18 Greenbrier Boulevard. Apparently the chair has forgotten it. She must be having early dementia problems. I came this time because something has been on my mind. I am a regular attendee of Mass at St. Dominic's and frequently ride the stretch from there along 88 to Point Pleasant. There is a triangle right at Old Squan as it merges into 88 that was at one time, from what I know from the very early years of attending these meetings, apparently some type of a gasoline tank is in the earth there, and therefore the ground was toxic. I haven't read or heard anything about that. I've seen a little bit of sprucing up, you might say, whitewashing the building maybe. It's not really whitewashing, that's a figure of speech. And is there anyone here who can inform me and the rest of the public about what's going on in that piece of the square? Does anybody own it? Does the town own it? Is it still toxic? I don't think any remediation. And since I'm not going to get too much of the information I seek from you, I will sit down and listen to what you're going to try to tell me. Oh, one last thing. I support John Sluka and what he looks into. I have, through all of COVID, had 2 sources that I used on YouTube. One, it troubles me to say as the daughter of Irish-American heritage, that the British Dr. John Campbell on his YouTube, he is a professor in our terminology, and I believe he teaches nursing studies. And what he has said about the coronavirus and the nonsense that we have been force-fed is supported by all the things that are coming out now, and even then. The other authority that I most support is Dr. Marty McCary at the Johns Hopkins Institute, or whatever, schooling, where he has a superb record. He is a man much more brilliant than Fauci and much younger. And I know a lot about Fauci. We came from the same neck of the woods in Brooklyn.
Regarding that property, it is public property, and they have not apprised us to any ongoings. Yes, Michelle?
Good evening, Michelle Spector from Evergreen Woods. This is a very abridged version of a letter I'm trying to get published in the paper. It's 2 state agencies hurt brick communities. It took years to figure out what devastated our environment. There were 2 highway projects occurring simultaneously near Evergreen Woods on the Garden State Parkway, the Exit 90 overpass and the Parkway winding. Originally, we were enveloped in a dense natural barrier. We were told years ago that the highway would never come near our community before we moved in. Residents were worried about what was about to happen. Engineers from the overpass project said only some trees would be cut, but never mentioned that a second project had a much different agenda. The center median was raised to the ground because paying a fine for clear cutting was cheaper. We lost 100 feet of old forest plus 38 feet from the shoulders to widen, so I'm out of breath here. Consequently, the average acceptable level of 65 decibels near a highway was breached. In a 2019 study Brick performed, we reached 82 decibels. On any given day, the noise permeates windows and walls and shakes our very homes. Sleep is disrupted through the night and early morning, constantly waking up children and adults. We endure 24/7 hissing of tires and loud noise engines, truck brakes, and motorcycles. The New Jersey Turnpike Authority, NJTA, disqualified Evergreen Woods for a sound barrier for 3 reasons. 1, the highway didn't move any closer to us. 2, their cost formula determined not enough residents were affected to justify the cost. 3, extremely narrow criteria was used to disqualify all communities save 1. However, the original shoulder in a pre-2003 project of the old Highway Authority was already used to create a through lane. The current NJTA extended that shoulder, which used to be considered part of the highway, but not anymore. This is how NJTA justified that the road didn't move any closer. They avoided mitigating a 10 dB rise in sound because they contrived a reason for not conducting a pre or post sound study for the rest of Evergreen Woods in the first place. The second excuse was a cost formula that determines eligibility. The cost couldn't exceed $50,000 per residence, since NJTA segmented the 2 neighboring projects, creating an artificial line. No resident was counted an inch beyond. Not all the affected homes were counted in the tally. The final reason, according to Frank Sarantino from his own lips, lead engineer of the overpass project, NJTA used extremely narrow criteria to determine who got a wall. They feared everyone would want one. Since an access road was built next to Cherrywood Farms and Brick, they got one. NJTA circumvents mitigation by segmenting projects. Cumulative effects aren't considered according to NEPA, National Environmental Policy Act. It must be. Carpenter and Associates did both sound studies for the NJTA. They didn't heed it. One question, Sharon Carpenter, a vice president in a telephone conversation, kept citing NJTA sound policy. Apparently, NEPA is only followed so long as there is no conflict with NJTA policy. The other agency involved in the convoluted mess is the NJDEP. They demand permits be acquired for highway projects in wetland areas, even though the environmental impact study concluded our area had sandy soil draining 1 foot an hour. The NJTA still had to comply. They also demanded detention basins be installed, but according to Cahill and Associates study conducted in 1989 for the DEP, basins don't work. NJTA debated the issue with DEP, who wanted to install basins on each side of the highway. Concerned with mosquitoes, they combined them for one big one in the center median. While they deliberated, the contractor had already clear-cut a large area next to Evergreen Woods. Residents complained and the work halted. NJTA tried to cover up. They claimed it was for storing equipment, but none was stored there. We complained to Assemblyman Halsefeld to help us out. After much ado, a berm was built in the area. Most of the trees died and had to be replanted, but it was tough luck for the rest of us. The DEP demands basin installation on all highway projects. Charlie Welch, the supervisor at this agency who signs the permit, had no idea where we even were. He had his subordinates find our location for him. He said he would help us, but he never did. He actually remarked during the site visit that he hoped the basins would work. The DEP doesn't actually have the authority or the science behind them to demand them. They get what they want anyway. They're expensive, useless, and the reason the Garden Parkway is barren, noisy. I just one paragraph, I'll make it quick. While this is Evergreen Woods' story, several other brick communities were also devastated due to the excessive loss of natural barrier. Through this non-comedic comedy of errors and cover-ups, NJTA and DEP families have endured the noise since 2010, even though the National Highway Authority states trees cannot be used at mitigation. The NJTA determined trees would be just the thing to shut us up. They concluded that this when they parked in our community and rolled one window halfway down, but it didn't stop us. We deserve to have our quality of life return to normal. The only way for that to happen is a sound wall for all the affected communities. That's why we've asked our Assemblyman Halsefeld, it's always a tongue twister, for an earmark for funds to save Brick residents from this injustice. And we're asking the council to also work with Halsefeld to help us with the earmark. And we also have a fundraiser online to help attorneys and to raise money for an attorney to represent us. Just go to GoFundMe.com and just type in sound wall, 2 words, and you'll find the fundraiser. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from public? Yes.
Sam Foster, 108 Chico Drive. I have a comment. I haven't been to council meetings lately because I haven't been feeling well, but I did see a council meeting a few weeks ago about, and I have a comment about the council comments made by Councilwoman Zapsik. And she can correct me if I'm wrong because I'm trying to recall it from memory, and my memory isn't always the best as I've admitted in the past. Councilwoman Zapsik seemed upset because of people in the room that were complaining about the budget cuts of the school system. Now again, Councilman Zapsik, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but she seemed upset because I remember one quote that she said was that she did not see any of the people in the room that were complaining at the meetings that she attended, something dealing with the school system's budget cuts. And she can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but she seemed upset about it. And my comment is this: for years, I've seen a problem with the Ducey administration, and I'll put it that way, because since Democrats took control of the township, and that is that you don't seem to understand we citizens have the right to criticize the government. That's something that is common, it's certain. I mean, there's no discussion about it. But repeatedly, we have had people in this administration, now Creighton Bishop, but the Brick Democrats, I'll put it this way, because it didn't happen during Republicans, in which you get upset when we criticize you. And you have to understand, if we don't like the job you're doing, we have the right to complain about it. I've stood here, I've complimented, and I've complained about you over the years. Everybody complained about the police, but I'll compliment them. We all know that. It's right there on the YouTube videos in town. And I want to make a comment to Councilman Zapsik. Maybe she can help her understand why there were not a lot of people, or she didn't see any of. I don't remember the exact quote. None of the people, or she didn't see many of them at that, whatever it was. And that is, I'm a delivery driver, and I've been in contact with citizens in town for many years, and I know from delivering to them that I've had many times the customers tell me in Brick that they're sorry that they could not tip me or tip me more because their finances were tight. And a lot of times they mention the tax increases that we have had in town. Not just the Acropolis administration, and I've been delivered back, I was delivery driver then too, but since Democrats took control of the town, and I'm a Democrat, so I compliment you. This is the time that I'm going to criticize you, and I have the right to do it. And I don't expect anybody to interrupt me. Now, I delivered to one house, and this is a true story. I don't remember where it was or when it was. And I dropped off the food. The man came out, picked it up, and says, thank you. And I said, you're welcome. And he says, I'm sorry I couldn't tip you more, but things are tight right now. I said, don't worry about it. As long as I get $1 per mile or more, I'll take the delivery. Some drivers don't. They have the slogan, no tip, no trip. If it takes me 10 miles to drive to a customer, I won't take it unless it pays $10 or more. She said, okay, thank you. That's very nice of you. Before he even shut the door, his wife started screaming at him, I told you to pick up the kids. And he said, I work all day. What about you to pick it up? He picked them up. And she shouted back at him, I work too. And he said, it's a big deal. You work one job, I work two. Back and forth like that. Then the kids started screaming. That was a household where we have both parents working, husband 2 jobs, wife 1 job. The kids don't see their parents. The parents don't see each other. It's not conductive to a good household. And there are a lot of people in town that are in the same position. 2, 3, even 4 jobs. Not just the parents work, but the kids work too. I've delivered times when I've had they tell me, in DoorDash, they tell you, leave at door, so I do. As I'm getting in my car, I see a school bus coming up, and I see a kid walking, and that was the lunch or dinner, lunch for the kid, because their parents aren't home, and the kid is alone, and that's what they have to do. That's what you have to understand. If you don't see people at these meetings, a lot of people in town don't have the time because of the tax burden placed on this administration's tax increases. And I know that you love to, I expect this is an election year, and I don't get the flyers. I wish I had them, I could show them, in which you compare your tax increases against the Acropolis tax increases. But you've been in office for, what is it now? Over 10 years. 15 years, is it? Something like that? Something like that? 9? Oh, more than that. More than that. Mayor Ducey served 3 terms. As mayor, correct?
This was his 9th term.
His 9th term?
Yeah, 9th year.
His 9th year? I thought I heard Joanne Bergen say he was his served 3 terms.
He was in his 3rd term.
Okay, so
He
let's say
served
9
years.
During that time, how many times did we have a tax cut? 1 year of a tax cut, 2 years of no tax increase or decrease, and we had every other year is a tax increase. So you have to understand, if you're going to complain about taxes with the Acropolis administration, what about you? You've been in office for all this time. Where's the sympathy for the citizens and the tax burden that you have placed on us? I had more to say, but my time is up. But I just want to say, if you're going to complain, you should complain about things that are important to the public. Yes, I think I understand you, Councilman. Because Councilman Zapsik did not have any outrage.
Councilwoman.
What?
Councilwoman.
What did I say?
You keep saying councilman.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry. Councilwoman Zapsik did not complain when Art Hadlin was screaming at Mr. Finelli because Mr. Finelli said that Chief Richo didn't get back to him.
Okay, Mr. Foster, please sit down. We get your point.
I understand. I'm making you look bad in an election year, so.
No, because we have
yes,
a 0%. We have a 0% tax rate increase this year, so you can keep talking.
I mentioned
but
that, didn't I?
Please sit down,
Oh,
sir.
I am
Sir,
going to.
you are
excuse
over
me.
your 5 minutes.
I understand that, but I'm responding to
I am asking
you.
you nicely to please sit down.
I am going to. I'll pick this
sit
up on
down.
Facebook, okay?
Thank you.
And by the way, I'm filing criminal complaints against Councilman Manicino and Ambrosino for what they
It's
did to me.
Minachino and Ambrosino.
Whatever his
Thank
names are.
you. Sit down.
And if you want to appear as their witnesses, as character witnesses, they better bring the toothbrushes.
Thank you. Please sit down. Anybody else from public? Seeing none, closing public. Mrs. Bergen.
Just wanted to thank the budget presenters tonight, Tara, Christopher, Danny, and Melissa for doing a great job.
Thank you.
for allowing us to share our
We
insights from our
appreciate
departments. Thank
your expertise. Mayor Crete.
Thank you. Also, thank you to our budget presenters this evening. Very informative. Danny always is very, very informative. I just have a couple of comments for tonight. I wanted to, if you haven't had a chance to see it yet, my first Crate Conversations was released last week. I had the opportunity to sit down with the president of the Brick Garden Club, and it was a really nice conversation about some of the events that they hold throughout the year, including their secret garden tour that happens in July, the meetings that they have once a month that everyone is invited to. They take place on the second Monday of each month at Havens Farm, and the public is invited to attend those meetings, and they talk about a lot of different things, not just the events that they do, but also plantings that they do around town. Everybody loves, I know you're sitting in traffic most of the time, but the Triangle property that's near the Quick Check, they take really good care of that property, and the president of the club had the opportunity to talk about how they do that. And
really, she really wanted to talk to everyone in the public to invite them to come out to their meeting. So hopefully you'll get to check that out. If you don't get our municipal updates each week, you can go onto the Brick Township website, and immediately a box will pop up asking if you'd like the municipal updates. So I would recommend that you click on that and say yes. It's just one email a week, and it's a nice little newsletter that encompasses everything that's going on in town, has events that you may be interested in, different things about, I don't know, whatever happens to be going on, or changes that are made, or anything that you might need to know about that you can click on links for. So I would definitely recommend doing that. And we do have some more Crate Conversations planned. So as soon as we get those filmed, I'll let everyone know so you can look for those as well. I also had the opportunity last week to meet at Brick Memorial High School with the Key Club there and the Women's Club of Brick, where we had the opportunity to plant pinwheels in the garden as a reminder for the idea that this is Child Abuse Awareness Month. It's a really important campaign that they work on with the Key Club at Brick Memorial, and also with the students at Brick Township High School as well. And I was able to give those students and the Women's Club of Brick a proclamation that day. So it was a really good event to attend, and I was happy to be there for the students and for that club. Today I had the opportunity to have we're calling an annual clergy luncheon. Mayor Ducey started it while he was here, and I had the opportunity to have a luncheon with clergy of all different denominations throughout town today. Ms. Bergen and I were there. It was really great conversation. We had the opportunity to hear what they are doing within their churches and parishes and synagogues, and how we can either assist in getting the word out for them, or how we can actually physically come, because I love to do anything. I just love helping the community, so any opportunities that I could have to go and help them as well, or the council could come and help as well. We were really excited to talk about some big ideas and share some stories and have a meal together, so that was lovely. If you are part of the clergy here in Brick and you did not attend, we did send out lots of invitations. I know it's tough sometimes for people to come to a lunch date, but if you are even a little bit interested, please reach out to my office and let us know, and we'll be sure to include you in the next invitation. We really do like to have as many people as we have churches and synagogues and whatever house of worship you belong to come. So just be aware of that, and we look forward to meeting with that group again and continuing to work together. Tomorrow I'm excited because I get to go out in the Meals on Wheels Mayor campaign. I'm very excited. It's the Mayor's Meals on Wheels, and I get to go out to some of the households tomorrow. I very much look forward to doing that as well. I haven't had that experience yet, and I do like to talk with lots of different people from the community, so I'm excited to do that. And I'll also have a chance to meet with some of the members of the Chamber of Commerce tomorrow, so we can talk about some businesses in town as well. One of the things that I got to do last week, which was kind of fun, and I had some council members join me, was you may have noticed that the Wawa opened up over on Lanes Mill, and we were excited to be there. It was a lot of fun. Apparently they had, I did not know this, but they had a mascot, a giant goose, who is sometimes a little scary, but a lot of fun. And there were a lot of cool things that they did for that opening. One of the things that I thought was fun was, apparently that original Wawa there was pretty old, so they had, one of the managers that was there went to, apparently they have a Wawa museum, who knew? And he grabbed one of the original flyers that went out when that Wawa originally opened. And he had it on display, and he was showing us, and it was, coffee was like $0.25, and I don't remember, bagels were like less than $1. It was pretty cool to see, and it was the actual original flyer that went out, so that was kind of fun. And the really exciting thing that happened was that we had a hoagie building contest, and it was the police department versus the fire department, and the police department was a little short, so I strapped on an apron and put on a hat, because I did work at Wawa for 4 years during college. That's what got me through college. So they had a little bit of a ringer on their team. Police did win. I was very excited about that. But the best part about that entire thing was it was fun to have that friendly competition, but Wawa donated $1,000 to each of their charities. So that was really nice of them to do, and we had a lot of fun doing that as well. So check out the new Wawa over there if you need a coffee in the morning or need to gas up. It was kind of fun doing that event, and I know people love Wawa. So, and then finally, speaking of charity events, the Brick PBA is hosting their PBA basketball game at Lake Riviera Middle School on April 27th at 6:30. It is the funds that are raised for that will help two residents here in Brick, and I don't have their names, but it's really every year they raise money to assist families here in Brick. So it's a great cause, it's a lot of fun, and we hope that you can make it to that. So that's all I have this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Starkey.
I don't have anything for tonight. Thank you.
Madam Clerk. Mrs. Murphy. Councilman Albanese.
Just thank you to Alyssa Cummins, Tara Paxton, Dan Newman, and Chris Romano on great budget presentations.
Councilwoman Pontorero.
I want to also thank Mrs. Bergen for her efforts. I was extraordinarily impressed by the stellar job done this year by all of the people working throughout the year to keep our budget low. So thank you.
Councilman Albany. Sorry, Ambrosino.
Thank you.
A's.
I'd also
The
like
A's
to
are
thank the
killing me.
department heads for the budget presentations, and that's it for this evening.
Thank you. Councilman Menachino.
Thank you, everybody, for your presentations, and that's all I have.
Councilwoman Travers.
I'm going to echo everybody else and thank you for the budget presentations. Thank you.
Council Vice President Zapsik.
Thank you, Council President. I also want to congratulate and thank Alyssa, Tara, Chris, and Dan. They're one of the busiest departments in the town. They touch a lot of people. They do great work. I can't tell you how many times I've referred somebody directly to Chris with a zoning question or whatever, and I was like, I don't have the answer to it, but here's the person who's going to give you the answer. So they're really great. I enjoyed the presentations, and I commend them on trying to hold the line on costs in their department, especially in a department that things fluctuate so wildly in any given year based on the construction needs. So great job, and also Mrs. Bergen for coordinating it all and getting us to the budget. Thank you. That's all I have tonight.
Very good. Thank you. I just want to thank again Alyssa, Danny, Tara, and Chris. And real quick, for our seniors, I've mentioned it a couple meetings ago, but we have two really great programs that we're putting on. The first one is Got Your Ducks in a Row. It's Preparing Your Financial and Personal Legal Matters, and that is going to be on April 17th, 24th, 28th, and May 1st at 1:30 at the Senior Center on Adamson Road. You do have to register, so please call seniors 732-920-8686. And then there's also the Chronic Disease Workshop, Take Control of Your Health. It's a 6-week class on Fridays from 10 a.m. to 12, starting on April 21st. So you do have to register. There still are openings if you would like to register. And that is all I have for this evening. Can I have a motion and a second?
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.